Hello everyone, Caleb Page here again. This video I'm going to talk about blades, blade tension, horsepower. I'll be honest with you, I don't have a 100% grasp on it, but I'll tell you what I knew. I'll tell you what I have theories on, what I believe, and hopefully it'll help you make some educated assumptions, or at least perk your interest, and so that you can do your own research. So blade choice. Obviously, you need to decide, do you want to run 1.25 inch, 1.5 inch, or are you going to go for the granddaddy and go for a 2-inch? Obviously, if you go to a 2-inch, you probably already know more than I do, or I would hope you do, because you're getting into some serious physics there, and you're running a very large mill. Anyways, I chose 1.5 inch because I was going through such a wide cut, and I could run 1.5 inch on a 19-inch wheels. Now that's to say that the width of the blade doesn't have a bearing on your wheel diameter. It's the thickness of the blade that dictates your wheel diameter. So you can run on a 19-inch wheel, you can run all the way up to about an 050, but I have heard stories of guys breaking blades with an 050. And what it is, it's the thickness of the blade. So it's 50 thousandths, or 0.050 thickness on the blade. So you're asking that blade to bend itself around a 19-inch diameter wheel 800 times per minute, 900 times per minute, 1,000 times per minute. So what happens is you build up a lot of tension, and if you know anything about metallurgy, you get work hardened. It can work hardened. You get a piece of copper wire and you bend it, and then you try to bend it back. It's not going to bend in that same spot that it's bent. It's going to bend in another. It work hardens. So same thing with this. It work hardens. It's going to get brittle. It's going to break. Your 042 and your 045 are the more common thicknesses, and you're not going to have any issues running them on a 19-inch wheel. I run both 042 and 045, depending on who I get the blades from. And then, like I said, I chose the 1.5 inch width because I felt like it offered me a better and more accurate cut. The 1.25 inch, I think, is the more common blade. Seems like a lot of manufacturers run the 1.25 inch blade. Your mill could be flexible, like I'm planning on making mine. I'm planning on being able to run 1.25 inch or 1.5 inch. Right now I can only run 1.5 inch. What I would have to change to run 1.25 inch are my roller guides, my hardened roller guides. I would need to change those out to run 1.25 inch. But other than that, I'm running an 042, 206-inch long, 7/8 tooth spacing, so from tooth to tooth to 7/8 of an inch. These happen to be a 10 degree Ripper 37, but I typically run a 7 degree. Down here in the south, we don't get any freezing temperatures long enough to freeze logs like some of you boys up in the north. Thank God, because I don't think I would be running a sawmill in snow. It's just not my thing. Anyways, so I run a 7 degree for hardwoods and softwoods, and it seems to be doing very well for me. So, obviously, for your blade choice, you need to do some research of your own. But you need to determine, are you going to be doing frozen logs? How wide of a cut are you going to be doing? If you get on sawmill manufacturers' websites and you look at their specs, if you choose a common blade by Wood-Mizer, then you can go to a Wood-Mizer dealer, and they're going to have common length blades on the shelf. So let's say Wood-Mizer uses a 185-inch long band for one of their common mills. Well, if your mill can run that as well, it's going to make it overall cheaper for you to run your mill because you're using a very common blade. Me, I'm running a very custom blade length, being 200. I can run from 204 all the way. I think I can run all the way up to 210 inches, and that adjustment comes from my hydraulic jack. I have a lot of play there. Anyways, but my blades are also fairly expensive. I did some averaging the other night, and each blade, by the time it gets to my house, is about $34 a blade. And obviously plus or minus $1 or $2 depending on who I get them from. But that doesn't sound like a lot. You're like, oh, well, $34, that's not very much. Well, Yeah, it kind of is when you're doing a wide cut that's 36, 40 inches wide and the blade lasts less than an hour and you only made 4 cuts in an hour or whatever. Yeah, that starts to really add up. You could have $100 in blades in one log if it's a large enough log. So keep that in mind. If you run a more common blade length, then it's going to be overall cheaper for you to run. Now, blade speed. I don't fully understand everything. I'll just disclaimer up front. I don't fully understand, but what I do understand is that think about tooth engagement and getting the most tooth engagement. Think about it like a truck with a load on the back, an old truck with a manual transmission, pulling a hill, and they've got 10,000 pounds on the back of the truck, and they're trying to pull this hill. Well, one truck has 5 horsepower, and the other truck has 50 horsepower. The 5 horsepower truck can get it up the hill, but it's going to have to be geared down, and it's going to go very slow up the hill. It's going to get the job done. On the other side, you have a 50 horsepower engine that's going to get that truck. He could run geared down, but why run geared down when time is money and he could get up the hill faster? So he's allowed to gear his engine or gear his transmission up and get up the hill faster, doing the same amount of work but getting up the hill faster. So think about it in those terms, as far as that's about the simplest I can make it. On blade, the goal with any blade is to get good engagement and throw large particles of sawdust out the side. You don't want dust or fine particles. What fine particles do is, your tooth has three sets on a blade. You have one tooth that's going like this, you have one tooth that's going like this, and you have one tooth that's going like this. It's done that so that way your blade doesn't have any friction going through the cut. Your teeth are widening the cut so that way the blade doesn't sense that friction. Anyways, those teeth clean that sawdust out. Well, when you go too slow because your horsepower is too low and you're trying to make, let's say you have a 10 horsepower engine and you're trying to make a 30-inch wide cut. Well, obviously you're not getting full tooth engagement because you're bogging your engine down when you get full engagement, and you're creating dust instead of sawdust particles, which hurts it hurts because you're building up friction, because that friction is getting between your top cut, the blade, and your bottom cut. That sawdust is building up in there, so it's going to shorten, it's going to take away horsepower, and it's going to shorten your blade life. What you want is big, large particles being, and I say large, obviously they're not very large, it's sawdust still, but it's not fine particulates. So you want to run enough horsepower so that way you can get full tooth engagement on your width of cut. So, and you want to be able to spin it at the speed you want. The worst thing for a blade, for accuracy reasons, is for the engine to bog down and the blade speed to slow down, because then you could potentially start getting some waves. So the goal to any blade is good tooth engagement at a proper speed, constant. That's what you want. You want constant feed rate, constant band speed, and you want all that to stay the same as you push it through the cut. Obviously your engine's going to fluctuate a little because it's not a perfect world. But you want that to stay as constant as possible with a full tooth engagement. So I guess what I'm telling you is, if you're looking at building a mill and you want to do a 30-inch wide cut with a 5 horsepower engine, well, I'm telling you right now, it's probably not the best setup. But if you want to do a 28-inch wide cut and you have a 25 horsepower engine, well, then you're going to be doing pretty good. You're going to be able to get that blade and put enough pressure in it to get full tooth engagement, to get those large particles out there. Your engine's going to stay at a constant speed, and you're going to be able to get a nice straight cut. So, obviously not every mill requires a 20 horsepower, 25, 30 horsepower engine. You can run 10, 12, 15, 18, all the way up to, if you want to go up to a 50 or 60 horsepower engine. So, but before I get into horsepowers, I'm going to talk about blade speed real quick. So the higher the horsepower, like I said before, the higher the horsepower, the faster you can run your blade. Same way with the trucks. The truck with the higher horsepower was able to get up the hill faster, so he was able to gear up. Same principle for this. The higher the horsepower, the faster you can spin your blade, because you have the power to continue to spin it at a constant rate. So I got this right off of Cook's Sawmill website. They have one of these articles. I've talked about it in another video. I strongly recommend you getting on there if you want to understand more, and call me out if I'm not saying something right. I hope I'm not misleading any of you. But some go-tos: if you're running an 8 horsepower engine, you want your blade to be running at 3,500 feet per minute at a constant rate. Okay, for a 12 horsepower, you can run at 4,000 feet per minute. A 16 to 18 horsepower engine, you can run at 4,500 feet per minute. 25 horsepower, 5,000 feet per minute. 30 horsepower and up, you can run as high as 5,500 feet per minute. Obviously, these are guidelines. These are optimal guidelines. I myself have a 26 horsepower engine, but I'm only running about 4,400 feet per minute because I am doing such a wide cut. And I will be honest, my engine is a little underpowered. I wish I could go higher, but for now, this is the operation that I've got, and this is what I'm making do. So, in order to achieve these feet per minute rates, you adjust that with your pulleys. Your engine pulley, whether you're using a centrifugal clutch or or the pulley on your main shaft. So these are also some guidelines that you can go by, that I've done the math. I created an Excel spreadsheet and I did some math, so that way it kind of gives you a go-to, an idea of where you're going to start. So if you have an 8 horsepower engine and you want to run 3,500 feet per minute, you're looking at like a 3.5 inch pulley on the engine and a 17 inch pulley on your shaft. That's gearing it way down, so that way if that engine can stay at a constant RPM, and you get a full tooth engagement and you get large dust particles. That's also assuming that the engine is going to run at its rated about 3,300 RPM. These numbers are based on the engine RPM of 3,300. That's where mine runs. Maybe your engine runs higher RPM or lower RPM. You have to do the math. These are just go-bys. So your 12 horsepower, 4,000 feet per minute, you're looking at like a 3.6 on the engine and a 15 inch on your shaft, on your saw, on your drive shaft. For a 16 to 18 horsepower, 4,500 feet per minute, to get that, you'd need to go from a 3.5 inch to 4 inch pulley on your engine and a 14 inch on your main shaft. You're on a 25 horsepower, 5,000 feet per minute, you're looking at like a 4.2 inch to 4.5 inch on the engine and a 14 inch on the main shaft. At 30 horsepower, which is run at 5,500 feet per minute, you run like a 4 3/4 inch on your engine shaft and a 14 inch on your main shaft. Those are just go-bys. These are just numbers that I wrote down. I know a lot of guys were asking, well, what engine size do I need? Hopefully that gives you a little bit. With an 8 horsepower engine, you could probably make like a 16 inch wide cut. Probably no bigger than that. With a 12 horsepower, you can do 20, 25. At 16 to 18 horsepower, 20 to 30 inches. You know, obviously the lower end, this is more catered towards the higher end of what you would want to cut. These are just a variance, which you could do plus or minus. And then on 25 horsepower and up, you know, you're getting the 30 to 40 and on up. So if you're wanting to do a 30 inch wide cut with an 8 horsepower engine, like I said earlier, it's probably not your best match. You want to go up in your horsepower. And I realize, obviously, higher horsepower, the more engine cost. But if you're doing this and you want to make money with it and you want to get through the log, relatively quickly with an accurate cut, then you're just going to have to go up in horsepower. You don't want to, getting back to blade speed, you want to run the engine at rated RPM. Going back to the pulleys, going back to blade speed and everything. You want that engine to run at rated RPM. And when I say rated RPM, on the throttle, you'll feel that that indentation on its far left or its far extreme. That's where that engine is designed to run. Typically, that's going to be closest to its torque curve. That's where you want that engine to run, because that's where it's running the most efficiently and produces the most power. You don't want to use the throttle to control your blade speed. You want your pulleys to do that. You want your engine to run constant and adjust the blade speed with pulleys. If you slow your engine down, it's not running efficient. It's not running to those peak horsepower and peak torque curves, and it's going to bog your engine down. And when you bog your engine down, your blade's typically going to want to dive. Or do this, do its own little dance, So, so just as a recap, engine size allows for a higher gear ratio, a faster band speed rate, which allows you to go through the cut faster with a full tooth engagement. A lower horsepower needs to be geared down, so your so a lower blade speed. And just real quick, how you get your blade speed: you take the diameter of your wheel. In this case, it's 19 inches. You times it by pi, which gives you the circumference, and you divide that by 12. That gives you how many feet around the wheel there is in 1 RPM. Then you multiply that by the RPM of the shaft. So let's say 900 RPM. So 900 rounds per minute times the circumference in feet of your wheel gives you your feet per minute in blade speed. There are, on Cook's website, there's some articles, and they cover this in greater detail, and they actually give out some formulas. I strongly recommend you go and you consult with those if you're trying to understand that. I created an Excel spreadsheet so that way I could punch in numbers and it would spit out info for me. Like I said, I'm running my blade a little slow for the horsepower, but it's also because I have a 51-inch cut, and I was trying to run it at 5,000 feet per minute. But in that large of a cut, what I was finding is when I was trying to push it through to get those large chunks, my engine was bogging down, and it was causing the blade to do all kinds of wonky stuff. So I slowed my engine down. I'm running between 4,200 to 4,400 feet per minute. Seems to be doing really well. I would love to have a 35 horsepower engine, but $2,500 just doesn't happen to be in my back pocket right now. So in closing, if y'all stuck it out this long, I wanted to do some shout outs and kind of give you an idea, kind of like the credits. See, the credits. Maybe we can do it in Star Wars. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. My cameraman's laughing at me. Anyways, so my material sources: McMaster Car, McMaster Car, McMaster Car, McMaster Car, McMaster Car. Did I say McMaster Car enough? That website, if you don't know McMaster Car about it, you need to go there right now. Close the video. Go over, type in McMaster Car, Google it, and if you didn't hear about it before and you just heard about it for the first time, your mind just exploded, I'm sure. They have so much. I'm not saying it's cheap. I'm just saying they have raw material. They have it. It's just cool. You need to go over there. Do it as soon as you get off the video. Obviously, Zorro. Zorro is another one of those. They have a lot of. It's kind of like Amazon, but for men. Oh, is that not inclusive enough?
Machine parts.
Oh, okay. Sorry if I offended. No, I'm not sorry if I offended any of you. Zorro, they have a lot of machine parts. That's where I got my bearings. Got them for $68 a piece. Couldn't find them any cheaper anywhere else. But I also got my shafts. They're $100, $150 a piece. That's where I went to get those. Obviously, Amazon. No project is complete unless you've made at least one trip to Amazon. I've done some different things. Bought some different trinkets and stuff off of Amazon. Harbor Freight in this area. I know Harbor Freight's got a stigma, but dadgummit, when you're trying to build on a budget, Harbor Freight's just where you gotta go. So Harbor Freight is where I bought my jacks. That's where I bought my taper assist or my taper lift hydraulic jack. And then Cook Saw. I've mentioned Cook Saw in here several times. Bought my wheels, my roller guides, my belt tensioner, my coolant system setup. I think that's it. I bought it through them. I'm sure there's another website or another place online that I used, but those are the major ones that I used. I did buy my trailer wheel package from a local company. They don't have an online store. Blade sources. I buy my blades through Cook Saw, Jerry's Resharp, and Smith Saw. That's where I've been buying my blades from. I have not found one that that's my go-to 100% of the time. I'm still looking, I'm still trying. I've only been doing this for a couple months. The manufacturers I looked at and I consulted their websites, which I strongly recommend you do. If you want to have an idea of what horsepower you need to run, you need to go, the best thing you can do is go to Wood-Mizer, go to Norwood, go to Hudson, go to Cook's, go to their websites, look at their width of cut, not what log diameter they can handle, because that's different than width of cut. Some sawmills, their width of cut is the same as their log diameter, like mine. But some of the mills, their width of cut is less than their log diameter. So look at their width of cut and look at what horsepower they're running. And that will give you an idea of what horsepower engine you should be running, or close to what you should be running. A lot of those manufacturers go with an upgrade. Well, we offer it with a standard 20, but you can go to 25. Well, if you have the money, go ahead and upgrade. Use the money that you're saving by building your mill to upgrade your engine, which it should allow you to do. If you're saving money, spend the money on the engine and your wheels. Oh, and Lynn Lumber. You can look at Lynn Lumber. They sell wheels as well, and I think they sell a saw head. You could actually buy their saw head pre-assembled, and all you have to do is come up with the lift mechanism, the gantry, and your track. And then YouTube channels. I looked at so many different YouTube channels, but the YouTube channels that I actually click subscribe and I watch all their videos that have helped me a tremendous amount. I've already named a couple. OneVeryOrdinaryMan has built a hydraulic mill. It's impressive what he has been able to do. And I looked at his mill, got a lot of great ideas from the way he did things. I've looked at, so what I didn't like and what I did like. Matt Cremona. If you haven't already been to his page, you got to go over and see what that man is doing. He has built a very large mill, very, very large mill. I think he has a 70-something inch cut. He's running a 2-inch band, I believe. Just impressive what he can do with his mill. Not only that, but also what he's doing with the wood after. It's a great channel. You can learn a tremendous amount. Big shout out to Matt for that. Cook Saw also has a tremendous amount of videos. They go through not only specific about their mill, but also about wheel alignment, wheel alignment and roller guide alignment and the ideas behind blade science and spinning them. So Cook Saw, it's not only their articles on their website, but their videos. They're not a high production quality, but they have a lot of good details, a lot of good information, and you get to also see how their mills are built. So great YouTube channel you need to go check out. And then a couple of other guys that I've just recently found that I think they dabble more into the business and running their mill, and I think they have some good value added, and that's WNC Portable Sawmilling and Southern Indiana Sawmilling. Those guys go into the business side of things a little bit more, but it's free knowledge. It's not costing you anything. They're giving of their time and putting YouTube channels out there. Some of them are, they have enough subscribers where they're getting an income from it. But to start out, they're putting out their free information for you and I to digest and learn from. And I strongly recommend you go over to those channels and check them out. Use YouTube as a tool that it is and learn from it. I appreciate you sticking with me these long, almost over an hour now in videos. If I've missed something that you wish that I would cover more detailed, I'll certainly try to do it. Leave me a comment. I'd appreciate any feedback. This is the first time I've ever done any videos like this. It may be the last time. It may not. I don't know. I probably sound like a buffoon talking, but I hope that I was able to help some of you guys out building your first mill, and hope that you gained some knowledge out of it. Y'all have a wonderful day.